Well, folks, here we are on a Sunday night. What is today? Today is September 11th. So basically, all day yesterday and all day today, me and my father-in-law, as you can see, we're rather busy, right? Got the basement framed. I couldn't be more pleased with the fact that we got this done in essentially a weekend, right? This is fantastic. As you can see, we have some leftover wood. I am bone tired, so obviously I haven't done full cleanup on this. Really, the only cleanup that's happened is, he took his tools and left, which is, completely understandable. We did straighten up the wood a little bit. He suggested that I hold on to a few 2x4s just in case we need them for some reason, with a few other parts of the project. So obviously I'm going to, and you can see where the doors are going to be in these rooms, and I'm going to do the Fat Man Shuffle through a couple of studs real quick here. And obviously this is the original nerd room, and you can see we're enclosed around here. And the story on this door, this is he really only made two mistakes during the whole process, which honestly is a lot fewer than I probably would have made, considering, when I was helping him, essentially all of the expertise was from him. And I would call myself, if you ever worked in IT, you sometimes refer to people as like smart hands to help you do things. Knowledgeable people to, do things when you're not physically able to in a remote location with IT. Well, in this case, I was definitely, more the dumb hands than the smart hands on this. So, I did obviously assist him the entire time because there's no way I was just going to let it go because it would have taken so much longer to get it done without help. I wasn't going to just say, okay, just go do it. That's not how I roll. I was very active the whole time. And the reason we bought this door, or we only have one pre-hung door here, and obviously the mistake is the gap in between the top of the pre-hung door and that board, but that's going to be easy enough to remedy with like another board, or worst case scenario, you can always just pry that one out, lower it, and whatever. That's very fixable. The reason I bought this door is because when I went to Home Depot's website to look at these doors, there were actually three different measurements of the size of this thing. Rather confusing. And this was on a Saturday, and I was like, well, I better find out. So I called Home Depot's, they call it, something apron support, and I asked them. All they did was basically repeat, what was on the website, and they had no idea what the rough-in opening for the door should actually be. And they suggested I contact the manufacturer. So I did. Unfortunately, since it was a Saturday, they were closed. So he's like, yeah, just go buy one of the doors. And that way, we're, good to go. And I was like, you know what? That's an absolutely fantastic idea. So obviously I went and I bought this door yesterday. It's 30 inches by 80 inches, which is a pretty standard size for doors. Most of the doors that they sell, interior doors, are that size. Of course, there's a few others, but by far 30 by 80 is the most popular size for whatever reason. So, yeah, and he gave me the friends and family rate, unsurprisingly, and only charged me $500 for this work, which is shockingly, a carpenter, would have charged me far more than that. So, yeah, I happily paid him the $500, but being my father-in-law, not going to charge me tons. Plus, I also had I spent about $60 in some random supplies that we needed. So that's going to go into the calculation for the framing part. Now, I'm not going to upload this video until, as you can see, we have a lot of leftover lumber, right? So I'm going to take my 3 to 4 boards, put those aside, and the rest of this is going back to Home Depot. I don't know how many there are here, so I may get 100, maybe a bit back on that. So however much I get back will get subtracted off the total that I've spent for this. So we'll see, right? We'll see how that goes. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and stop it for the day. And I'll actually probably clean up a bit tomorrow and just show you a little bit of what the cleaned up work site looks like a little bit. So it actually looks a little cleaner. And also, one thing I want to talk about is, and one good thing about this series of videos, like I said before, is I've lived in this house for, since 2008, so 14 years. So obviously, I've accumulated a lot of crap, and I think the fact that I have so much junk, yeah, it doesn't look very good in this video, but it kind of gives people a realistic idea of what they can expect when they are going to do this sort of work in their basement if they've lived in the house for a while. Now, obviously, if I had just moved in, this would have been an empty area and far simpler logistics-wise. But yeah, if you've lived in your house for a while, this is the kind of crap you can expect. Before I really do the next part of the project, I am going to go ahead and do some management. I'm going to reduce the amount of stuff in this basement quite a bit because it really was a hassle kind of working around it. So before the next part happens, because again, I don't have a deadline, I can do it on whatever schedule I feel like. Before the next part happens, I am going to go ahead and get it cleaned up some to where things are much more manageable. So that's it. I'll see you guys tomorrow for the next part of this video. Oh, folks, I did forget to mention there is one part of this build so far that is not up to code. Since my father-in-law told me that if we had a building inspector coming in checking this, we would fail. And the reason for that is really you're looking at this and you're like, well, you got 16 on-center studs, 2x4, pressure-treated wood on the floor, and the stud's overkill, but definitely not forbidden in the code. Why would this fail? Well, it would fail because he told me that if there's like no fire barrier, because we got a pretty open space back here in between the studs and the wall, because there's no fire barrier, that is what would cause the fail. He said we could make it pass if, by putting some sort of a fire barrier up here or whatever. Truly, I am not worried about that. It's not going to affect the quality of the work in the least or the usability of the structure. So do I really care about that? No. But, the fact that I live in an area where permits are not required for this, I'm definitely not going to sweat it any. But yeah, I did want to point out, if by some wild chance something happens that would be a code violation in my work, I'm going to mention it. That way, if you guys live in a place where permits are required and all that, if something happens and you see it and you're like, yeah, I want to make sure I pass building inspection, you would have to put some sort of a fire barrier up there. So anyway, that's it. I will see you guys tomorrow with the cleanup. Okay, folks, some time has passed since the last part of this video when I showed you just after I had finished the framing. I don't know if it's been 1 or 2 weeks, honestly. At this point, time has no meaning. But as you can see, I've done a significant job here of cleaning up. Got up, sawdust, all that. Much, much cleaner. Pile of wood is gone, right? And I'm going to be talking about that in the final part of the video when I talk about money and all that, because I returned a lot of the lumber. I did keep a couple pieces, like I said. I only kept 2 full uncut ones and just some leftovers from before, and that's basically it that I kept around, because I did get a pretty significant amount of money back, which does change a little bit the talk about how much it's cost me so far. So it was nice to get it back, but of course today I spent more than what I got back, and I'll show you folks here what I spent the money on. But before I do that, I'm going to show you guys something in particular. Oh. Anyway, that's just a nail that fell down. Let's see how clearly I can get this to show up here. Okay. So, while I was doing the cleanup, right, because part of it, of course, was, putting these nails back in the box and all that. It says right here, bright coated, should not be used in treated lumber. Well, I'll just repeat this just in case I haven't mentioned it enough times. All these studs here are treated lumber, right? So, of course, what I did when I discovered this is I Googled what happens if you use bright colored nails and, treated lumber. And, of course, I had no way of knowing this because I just, I've never really messed with it. So it's not something I knew. So even with all the research I did, I missed a pretty big piece of information. Basically, if you use regular nails in treated lumber, over time, the chemicals in the treated lumber will corrode the nails. And they say it could take years, maybe decades or whatever. Again, this is a job that I want to do one time in my life, right? I'm going to do it one time and then I'm not doing this again. Right? There's just no way. And yes, there's a reason I'm showing these. We'll get to that. So, of course, what I'm going to do is get framing nails that are suitable for treated lumber because there's plenty of them, right? It's not hard to get them. And thankfully, since the studs are still exposed, I haven't done drywall or I haven't done anything except framing yet. It'll be very easy just to take my nail gun that I still have and just, reshoot nails into all of the studs, right? Now, some people are like, oh, you don't have to do that. It'll probably be fine, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I'm the type of person, if you haven't figured out by now, that if there's even the possibility of a disaster, or at least a known disaster, I'm going to do my best. If I can do something that's reasonable to avoid it, I'm going to avoid it. So, yep, it just means a weekend coming up here soon, I'll be shooting some nails into these studs. Not really the end of the world. So, like I did mention, I got a pretty significant refund when I returned those 45 pieces of lumber. I will talk about all that when I get to the final part of this video where we wrap up framing entirely. And with basically the refund that I got, because I had mentioned earlier in the video that, about the size of the doors and all that. So with the refund, what did I get? I got 3 more doors because I need a total of 4 doors. And there's the 4th door that I already previously had. So, and they're all 30 by 80, which is the size. Now, they are different models, a few of them, but they're all the same size. They all have the same measurements on the, for everything that matters, they're identical. The only reason they're different model numbers is they're like left-handed or right-handed. Who really cares, right? So, it is nice to be basically completely done with the framing at this point. I got the cleanup, I got the refund, and I'm ready to, correct the mistake and then on to electrical. But before that, I got to cut back to myself where I'll be talking about finance and just a few other little small things. And I'll tell you guys the story of when I went to Home Depot today to take back the lumber and what that was like. So, see you in a little bit. Okay, folks, here's the time in the video where we talk money on this a bit. And so we're going to take a look at where I was, just when I initially got all my supplies for the framing before the work was actually performed. Where I was monetarily at that point, I had spent about $2,600, right? So, of course, I had to spend a bit more money to kind of, get this part of the project over the top. And I'm going to talk about how I classified some of the purchases and why I'm including it in the framing. We'll get there because it could be argued these things maybe don't belong in the framing portion. But for me personally, I think it's okay. So anyway, as I already had mentioned, I paid my father-in-law $500 to basically be the brains of the operation, right? And do a lot of the work, obviously. So I paid him $500. And then essentially there were, when he got here, there were like basically some miscellaneous supplies
that needed to be purchased. They were about $60, right? Whatever. Okay, so obviously I said I got a pretty significant refund by returning those 45 pieces of lumber. It was close to 500-ish, I think, my refund. Unfortunately, I can't tell you exactly because it was all done on a Home Depot card, and I can't log in and see pending transactions, so I truthfully don't know. I'm just going to sit, because like I had mentioned in the video, and it, we talked about the lumber I returned. What I bought, of course, were were doors, right? And I already talked about the reason why. And the reason I think it's okay to include doors in this portion of budgeting is because, you can definitely put doors up after you frame. There's really no reason not to. Drywalling doesn't affect them. In at best, you might drywall first and then put the doors on, but it really doesn't matter if you put the doors on right after framing. So that's why I'm including it here into that. So then the refund, like I said, for the 45 pieces of lumber, it was 500-ish. And then the doors cost 500-ish. So I'm just basically putting those two as a wash, right? And then the other thing I bought were 4 doorknobs, and those were about $40. So roughly, it cost me out of pocket 600-ish, probably a bit more if I'm being honest. But I'm just these are just nice round numbers where I'm like, it's about this much. If I'm 100 or 2 off in the scheme of when we get to the end of this, $102 of being off, even 500 or 600, like if I make several errors, it's not going to be that big of a deal because I don't think I'm going to be really, by the end of this, particularly near my original $10,000 goal. I don't know. I do know that a lot of the material coming up is going to be significantly less expensive. Like drywall, for example, is not all that expensive, but a drop ceiling is. So, and I know the electrical stuff won't be all that expensive either. But again, flooring will be. So you see where I'm going with this. So I don't know end game what this looks like. I'm obviously trying to do it for as much of a budget as I can, but we'll see. So anyway, that's it for the talk about the financial part. I'm gonna stop, and then I'm just gonna tell you my amusing little anecdote. So if you don't want to hear the story from today, drop off now. For everybody else, I'll see you in about a second. Hey folks, for those of you who do want to hear my anecdote about going to Home Depot today, here it is. Basically, went up there with the lumber, obviously, and I went to the Pro Desk, which is on the actual same side of the building that they keep their lumber on, right? So I was like, sweet. So I go in there, I talk to the people at the Pro Desk. I told them, hey, this was a Pro account, blah, blah, blah. Do I return here? And they're like, no, you have to go to customer service. And they're like, you're going to have to bring it into customer service. And I'm like, and customer service, of course, was on the other side of the building, right? And this is slightly annoying because, I had to finagle my way into the Pro parking, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, okay, fine. I said, so do I need to take my stuff down there? They said, yeah. So I was like, great. So got in the vehicle, moved it down to the other side of the store. And then I went in to the returns desk, right? And they did the return for me, which was fine. All good, right? And then they told me that I needed to take the stuff I was returning back over to where I had already previously been. To say that this irritated me would have been an understatement. So, again, I get in my vehicle and I head back down there to where I previously was. And luckily, I was more easily able to find a parking spot that time. And, someone's out there and I said, hi, are you the lumber person? He's like, oh, no, no, no. And I'm just like, this is fun. Right. But luckily, pretty quickly, the lumber person started to help me. Took it back, got my refund that I already talked about, and of course I bought my items bought my items, and walked out the door, and that was that. Overall, I would have to give this customer service experience maybe a C plus. It was competent. It got everything done. but it was slightly annoying. So maybe a C minus. At least it wasn't like horrifically bad or anything like that. So, you know, I don't really expect great customer service from Home Depot because mostly you have most of their employees are like basically, high school or college kids that aren't going to care that much. And honestly, I don't really blame those folks that much for that. That's just reality. I know if I was like a kid working there, I probably wouldn't care very much either. So that only comes with time and experience, and only for the right types of jobs. So anyway, that's basically it. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Live long, prosper, keep on rocking. I'll see you guys probably pretty soon.